Namaskar, Jai Shri Krishna. Illuminating text 21 and text 22 of chapter 10, Departure of Lord Krishna for Dvaraka of first creation of Srimad Bhagavatam, text 21. Sa vai kilayam purushaha puratano ya eka asida vishesha atmani agre gunebhyo jagadata manishware nimili tatmana nishi supta shaktishu. They said, here he is, the original personality of Godhead, as we definitely remember him. He alone existed before the manifested creation of the modes of nature, and in him only, because he is the Supreme Lord, all living beings merge, as if sleeping at night, their energy suspended. There are two types of dissolution of the manifested cosmos. At the end of every 432 crores solar years, when Brahma, the Lord of one particular universe, goes to sleep, there is one annihilation. And at the end of Lord Brahma's life, which takes place at the end of Brahma's 100 years of age, in our calculation, at the end of 864 crores into 30 into 12 into 100 solar years, there is complete annihilation of the entire universe, and in both the periods, both the material energy called the Mahat Tattva and the marginal energy called Jiva Tattva merge in the person of the Supreme Lord. The living being remain asleep within the body of the Lord until there is another creation of the material world, and that is the way of the creation, maintenance and annihilation of the material manifestation. The material creation is effected by the interaction of the three modes of material nature set in action by the Lord, and therefore it is said here that the Lord existed before the modes of material nature were set in motion. In the Shruti mantra it is said that only Vishnu, the Supreme Lord, existed before the material creation, and there was no Brahma, Shiv or other demigods. Vishnu means the Mahavishnu, who is lying on the causal ocean. By his breathing only, all the universes are generated in seeds and gradually develop into gigantic forms with innumerable planets within each and every universe. The seeds of universes develop into gigantic forms in the way seeds of a banyan tree develop into numberless gigantic banyan trees. This Mahavishnu is the plenary portion of the Lord Shri Krishna, who is mentioned in the Brahma Samhita as follows. Let me offer my respectful obeisances unto the original personality of Godhead Govinda, whose plenary portion is the Mahavishnu. All the Brahmas, the heads of the universes, live only for the period of his exhaling after the universes are generated from the pores of his transcendental body. Brahma Samhita 5.58. Thus Lord Krishna or Govinda is the cause of Mahavishnu also. The ladies talking about this Vedic truth must have heard it from authoritative sources. An authoritative source is the only means of knowing about transcendental subject matter definitely. There is no alternative. The merging of the living beings into the body of Mahavishnu takes place automatically at the end of Brahma's 100 years. But that does not mean that the individual living being loses his identity. The identity is there, and as soon as there is another creation by the supreme will of the Lord, all the sleeping, inactive living beings are again let loose to begin their activities in the continuance of past different spheres of life. It is called Suptothita Naya, or awakening from sleep, and again engaging in one's respective continuous duty. When a man is asleep at night, he forgets himself what he is, what his duty is, and everything of his waking state. But as soon as he awakens from slumber, he remembers all that he has to do and thus engages himself again in his prescribed activities. The living being also remain merged in the body of Mahavishnu during the period of annihilation, but as soon as there is another creation, they arise to take up their unfinished work. This is also confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita 8.18 to 20. The Lord existed before the creative energy was set in action. The Lord is not a product of the material energy. His body is completely spiritual, and there is no difference between his body and himself. Before creation, the Lord remained in his abode, which is absolute and one. Text 22. स एव भूयो निज वीर्य चोदितां स्वजीव मायां प्रकृतिं सिसृक्षतिं अनाम रूपात्मनि रूपनामनि विधित्समानो अनुसार शास्त्रकृत. The personality of Godhead again desiring to give names and forms to his parts and parcels, the living entities being placed under the guidance of material nature. By his own potency, material nature is empowered to recreate. The living entities are parts and parcels of the Lord. They are of two varieties, namely Nitya Mukta and Nitya Baddha. The Nitya Muktas are eternally liberated souls and they are eternally engaged in the reciprocation of transcendental loving service with the Lord in his eternal abode beyond the manifested mundane creations. But the Nitya Baddha or eternally conditioned souls are entrusted to his external energy Maya for rectification of their rebellious attitude toward the Supreme Father. Nitya Baddhas are eternally forgetful of their relation with the Lord as parts and parcels. They are bewildered by the illusory energy as products of matter and thus they are always busy in making plans in the material world for becoming happy. They go on merrily with plans, but by the will of the Lord, both the plan makers and the plans are annihilated at the end of a certain period as above mentioned. This is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita as follows. O son of Kunti, at the end of the millennium, all the living entities merge into my nature and again, when the time of creation is ripe, I begin creation by the agency of my external energy. Bhagavad Gita 9.7. The word Bhuyaha means again and again, that is to say, the process of creation, maintenance and annihilation is going on perpetually by the external energy of the Lord. He is the cause of everything. But the living beings who are constitutionally parts and parcels of the Lord and are forgetful of the sweet relation are given a chance again to get rid of the external energy and to revive the living being's consciousness. The revealed scriptures are also created by the Lord. Vedic literatures are the guiding directions for the conditioned soul so they can get free from the repetition of creation and annihilation of the material world and the material body. The Lord says in the Bhagavad Gita, this created world and material energy are under my control. Under the influence of Prakriti, automatically they are created again and again, and this is done by me through the agency of my external energy. Actually, the spiritual spark living entities have no material names or forms, but in order to fulfill their desire to lord it over the material energy of material forms and names, they are given a chance for such false enjoyment, and at the same time they are given a chance to understand the real position through the revealed scriptures. The foolish and forgetful living being is always busy with false names and false forms. Modern nationalism is the culmination of such false forms and false names. Men are mad after false name and form. The form of body obtained under certain conditions is taken up as factual, and the name also taken bewilders the conditioned soul into misusing the energy in the name of so many isms. The scriptures, however, supply the clue for understanding the real position, but men are reluctant to take lessons from the scriptures created by the Lord for different places and times. For example, the Bhagavad Gita is the guiding principle for all human beings, but by the spell of material energy, they do not care to carry out the programs of life in terms of the Bhagavad Gita. Srimad Bhagavatam is the postgraduate study of knowledge for one who has thoroughly understood the principles of the Bhagavad Gita. Unfortunately, people have no taste for them and therefore they are under the clutches of Maya for repetition of birth and death. Hare Krishna.